Hey guys, Justin here with JHart Modelworks. We've got an update on the Fujimi Ferrari F355 GTS. So we've got a bit done. We've done some preliminary modification and things like that. Also, I just got a message from Kyle this morning letting me know that he has finished up with his Lamborghini for our buddy build. So next week we're going to do the final on the Lamborghini Countach build. But for right now, let's go ahead and get the camera flipped around and take a look at where we're at. Alright guys, so we're going to start off with the door cards. The door cards in this kit, as you can see here, are pretty much freaking terrible. They are molded into the tub. It is all one big tub, so I cut them out and I've 3D modeled new ones. I then decided maybe I would stick them up on my Colts 3D page. So to make it easier for you guys on the Colts who do purchase my files from Colts, I've designed these cutting masks here that'll make it easier for you to cut these out, and then you can replace them with the doors that are in the package. Okay, so I already started cutting before I thought, maybe I should record this. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to print out one of these door card cutting masks that are going to be included in the kit, and it's going to have a lip that goes over. I'm just going to drop it into place and push it all the way back. I don't want to take this off again because I've already started making cuts, and I want to keep it where it's at. But it's got basically the shape of your door card and a lip that folds over and slides down, and that lip is snug enough that it's not going to move on you while you're cutting. You're going to want to come in with like a scribing tool and a razor saw, and you're just going to start scribing along this line. You are going to keep your thumb on the top edge while you're doing this bottom. That's going to help make sure it doesn't slide. It shouldn't slide much, but it may slide if you're pushing. Okay, to make a short story long here, once we have scribed all the way around the cutting mask a few times, we should be left with a fairly deep set of grooves that we can then follow with a razor saw to cut the door card the rest of the way out. You can use a hobby knife to do this, but keep in mind a hobby knife blade is probably about twice as thick as these razor saws, so if you're using a hobby knife, you may have a larger gap around your door card. You can also use the photo etch saw blades that are out there to do this. Honestly, you can even just keep scribing around the lines with the scriber until you have the door card completely cut out. After you have it removed, you will then need to clean up the edges with a knife or a sander and test fit your door card to see if you need to do any additional sanding or trimming to get a good fit. So this is the door card the kit gave us, and in the corner is going to be a picture of an actual door from a Ferrari 355. This is what we've come up with 3D print wise. Now I am going to be putting these up on my Colts 3D store for those of you with 3D printers. I am going to make these, I'm going to make a slight modification. I want to make these little glue tabs a little bit thicker. They're like 0.3 of a millimeter right now. And as you can see, they are quite fragile. They're not super important. It's just really there to give you a little bit of space to put some glue on and to keep you from, popping it through. But I want them to be a little more stable for you guys so y'all aren't having any problems with them. There are our new doors. All right, moving on. We have our chassis painted up, which is really just primered, and we painted up the engine portion down here. All looks nice. We have our front suspension complete, which I wanted to get the suspension done because I wanted to do some test fitting. I was pretty sure I was going to have some problems with the wheels that I chose, and of course I do. We'll talk about that in a second. And we have our rear end suspension and exhaust. Pretty simple, but it's all pretty nice if you paint it up well. So that's just going to drop in here. There's some holes you want to make sure that you hit. And this is just going to drop in like this. It really is just a nice, quick, simple little curbside. I'm going to do some more detail painting in here and whatnot, maybe a little bit of scrapes and weathering, but we'll see. Now, the reason I wanted all of this done is because let's start talking about the brakes. There are some issues with the brakes. These are the brakes that they give us. That's your front, and that is your rear. Now the actual, there's some issues with these. The first issue is that the actual brakes on these cars are Brembos. They're Ferrari branded, but they are 2-caliper Brembo brakes, front and rear. This looks like a 1-caliper, and neither of these look like Brembos at all. The other issue is that is a disc brake handbrake. This is the front brake assembly. Your handbrake does not go on the front wheel. It would go on the rear. And for this particular car, it is not an external disc brake. It is internal to the hub for the brake. So you shouldn't see the handbrake, period. So I knew I was going to redesign the brakes just to fix that alone. But we also have some issues with the spacing for the wheels. And that issue is that these are the kit wheels, which these are convex, they curve out. These are the wheels that I'm going with. These are concave, they cave in. And the point is that the mount point difference is about that much. So this wheel is going to stick about that much past the fender. So there is a hub that is supposed to go in the center of this that has your 5 lug nuts and the center cap. So that's going to push it out further. But just for demonstration purposes, this is how the original kit wheel should sit. Kind of tucked in like that. And the 3D printed wheel without the spacer sits right on the edge. With that spacer, it's going to be sitting about like that, which isn't very good. So what I did was I completely 3D modeled the brakes. And I modeled them to be paper thin. That's about 0.7 of a millimeter. Compared to, the camera will focus, these were about 1.5 millimeters. So that shaved me off a little over 0.5 mil there. I then took the center cap that I was telling you about, and you can see the outline of it. In my slicer for my 3D printer, this is why it's awesome to have your own printer instead of buying parts. There's nothing wrong with buying parts from other guys. Guys like Matt from Model Car Videos do fantastic jobs, but having a little bit more control, I'm able to take the center and drop it inside my brake part. And the printer doesn't know, it doesn't care. It just turns the light on or it turns the light off. So it prints it all as one solid part. And because I could drop it inside so that just the very lip is almost flush with the surface of the brake, I eliminated all of the space taken up by that spacer, or by the hub. So now, if you drop these in like that, now as you can see, we properly tuck inside that fender. And we no longer are rubbing on the fender for the articulation. Everything sits like it should, and it's going to look a whole lot nicer than having the wheel stick out. Now, I had the same issue with the Tamiya NSX. I bought these beautiful hobby design brakes, and I also bought some 3D printed wheels from, or some custom wheels from Fugu Garage. And as you can see, these things just stick out like a freaking monster truck. They look absolutely terrible. So I was not paying attention to that. I talked about that during the video, but yeah, that's why these look so bad. So we had the same issue with our rear wheels. Now, I know I always say that the caliper always goes to the center of the car. Well, apparently it does not, because on this particular car, all the reference photos show that the brake calipers on the rear wheels do face towards the back, so I am wrong on that. Now, this is our rear wheel, and it sits nice and tucked in inside the body line. Once again, even without taking account of the spacer, we're right on the edge, actually sticking out past the body. With that hub in place, we're going to stick out about more like that. So we redesigned these brakes as well. We're not going to be using the metal axle that goes through the center of the car. I don't really want my wheels to spin anyhow. I don't like having rolling wheels on cars because they tend to roll off of whatever they're on and break. So we're not going to bother with trying to make it turn. We took this raised lip completely out of the picture, and we once again made them paper thin. Again, they're like 0.7 of a millimeter, so they're thick enough that they don't like turn all wavy and wobbly and break and fracture, but they're super thin so that, you know, it eats up a little bit of that space. We also sunk in our hub again so that we no longer are taking up a bunch of space for that hub. And now, once again, we are tucked nicely inside that body line. So that's something to really keep in mind when you're working with 3D printed parts. If you're, you know, buying some wheels from somebody or whatnot, keep in mind the shape of the wheel and where that mount point is going to be with relation to your axles and whatnot, because this makes a big difference. Alright guys, that is going to be a wrap for this video. We're going to start moving on to working on the body. We've already started some of the prep work on it, but we'll talk about that in the next video. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I always appreciate you watching the videos, and I will catch you on the next one.